something that I've noticed in my own life is that when I cling to something, when I'm attached to it, and this can be anything, it can be a relationship, it can be a job, it can be a hobby, it can be an idea, it can be a belief system, whatever it is, if you're attached to it, then this is what creates the majority of suffering in our lives. At least this has been my experience. When I'm attached to something, I'm clinging to it and I don't want it to go. But the nature of this dimension is this too shall pass, so it has to go. And so when it starts to fade away, when it starts to dissipate, this is when the suffering starts, because I've been attached, I've been clinging to that thing, that whatever it is, the job, the hobby, the status. It could be a material object, it could be a person, a relationship, it could be anything that you're attached to. That attachment in and of itself is what's creating the suffering. And it's creating this sense of, it's like this sense of you losing yourself, because when you're attached to something, especially a belief structure, the ego has a very tricky way of like identifying with that thing. So it kind of becomes who you think you are. And so when you lose the thing that you're attached to, or if it starts to fade away in your life, you can feel like a part of you is being lost. And so it can send you into this dark night of the soul. And it can be a very, very difficult thing to navigate. This was the case for me growing up in religion and having this certain belief system of how I thought God was, and the afterlife and judgment and, different prophecies and stuff that is found in the Bible. Like, I had based my entire identity upon that, upon what a book was saying about me. And so when I started to move past that, when I started to transcend the confines of my religious fundamentalism, it took me into this wilderness season where I felt like I didn't know who I was anymore. And I still had the mentality of I have to cling to some kind of philosophy or some kind of religion in order to have that sense of peace, in order to have that sense of security, especially about my eternal salvation. So there was a time where I was kind of bouncing around and looking for different ways to view God and trying to figure out, which religion was the one and only way, which group, which club, which institution had it all figured out. But then I realized that, any kind of affiliation, any kind of attachment with any kind of belief system is going to lead me into the same place that I just came out of with the religion of Christianity. And so when I started to meditate, this is the difference for me, at least, with meditation and like getting into religion. Like, for me, meditation has nothing to do with religion or even like spirituality, because even spirituality can be another thing where it's like, okay, what do you believe and which practice do you do and whatever. But meditation for me was just kind of like this thing of, you know what? I'm going to sit here and I'm going to be aware of my thoughts and my feelings and my emotions. And as I would sit back in that space, in that presence of awareness, I realized that who I really am is not who I thought I was. And who I thought I was came with many different labels and many different identities and attachments and roles throughout my life. But what I noticed was every time I had gone through a season or a phase of attaching to an identity, like when I played basketball, I'm a basketball player, this is who I am, or whatever. Like, anytime I went through that, or when I was in ministry and I wanted to be a pastor and I had that identity and that attachment, like every time I would switch these attachments or these roles, what I noticed was that the roles were switching, the attachments were switching, the phases and the statuses were switching. But there was something that was not switching and changing at all. And that was this sense of I am, this presence, this awareness that was actually aware of the me, the egoic me, the small self, having and needing to cling to all these different egoic identities and roles and things in order to feel worthy, in order to feel enough, in order to feel this sense of fulfillment. But what happened every damn time, I would like try to find fulfillment and peace and joy and happiness in all these different things externally or through some kind of belief system or structure or whatever, was like I keep saying, there was an expiration date on each and every one of these things that I was clinging to. And so maybe I would get like this superficial sense of peace or joy or fulfillment every now and then, but it wasn't that deep like contentment. It wasn't what I was really looking for and searching for. And then I read a quote from Rumi where he said, "You are what you seek." And then I realized that the real me, the you that Rumi was referring to, was not the egoic small self, this sense of like being an independent ego. Like that's not what Rumi's talking about in this mystical, profound quote. What he's actually talking about is the true self. It's that infinite awareness that I just was talking about, that's actually able to like sit back. It's the witness and just be and just observe as the subject. Some have referred to it as absolute subjectivity, where it's just this infinite awareness, this presence that's just totally detached from needing to cling to any kind of specific egoic role in order to feel any kind of way, because it's just pure isness. And so what it really is, this sense of the true self, the Atman or Brahman Atman, it's the infinite sky that is behind the clouds. And so you have all these things in your life, like I said, that come into your life. They hang out for a little while. You experience them. You were meant to enjoy them. You were meant to appreciate them and honor them. But there's a time for letting go. There's a time for detachment and allowing it to pass. And there's this like interesting grace that comes with that, because what I'm starting to understand about life is that everything is flowing and moving, and there's all these different cycles and patterns, and just it's a river. And so when you allow the river to do its thing and you allow it to flow in and through you, and you're open and you're not holding on to things so tightly, I don't know what it is. It's just in that, in and of itself, the ability and the awareness of not holding on to things too tightly and letting them go when you need to let them go, that is the very thing that produces this peace that surpasses all understanding. But the peace that surpasses all understanding is not like something that you finally get when you start to let go. That's not how it works. At least in my experience, what I'm discovering is that the peace, the innate peace, is actually something that you are. It's like a quality, I guess, or an expression of that infinite awareness that just is. So is love, by the way. So we're thinking in our minds that, okay, I'm not peaceful right now. I'm stressed out, I'm worried, I'm fearful about this and that and all these different things. So I need to get some peace. I need to go find peace in the world so that I can then be okay and I can feel better and I can, move on with my life and be content. That's what we think, but that's not actually how it works, because that right there, that mindset of external peace searching is an endless cycle. It's like a treadmill. You never fully get where you're wanting to go. It's just these patterns of searching and seeking and thinking that you've got it, thinking that you found it in this or in that, and then it disappoints you every single time, and it leaves you feeling more empty and more empty and more empty, and then you get depressed, and it's not a good path. It's not a good road to take. So yeah, what happens is when you have this approach, I guess you could call it that, of just letting things flow, letting the clouds pass, enjoying them while they're here, appreciating them, being fully present with them, then this is when you start to experience that peace that just arises very naturally. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but if you've ever experienced peace for no reason, like just this innate peace that arises, you'll be amazed, because there's nothing like it. There's nothing in the world like this innate peace that's just there for no reason. And you feel like this profound sense of unity with it, because ultimately, like I said, it is you. You are what you seek, as Rumi said. So, we're sitting here trying to hold on to all these things, thinking that holding on to these things is what is going to give us peace or whatever, joy, fulfillment, contentment, happiness, love. We think that in the clinging, we'll get it and we'll get more of it. But this is the illusion of the ego. It doesn't work. I'm telling you, it does not work, because whatever you're clinging to, whatever you're attached to for the peace, it's got to go. It's moving. It's passing. It's flowing. This is the nature and reality of this dimension, which, by the way, this dimension is a school, Earth school. So I think there's different curriculums, and I've talked about, transcending judgment and awakening to unconditional love. I think that's one of the main themes of this Earth school. And we also have our own little different curriculums, personal curriculums that each soul is having to go through and experience. So there's that. Then there's these universal themes and lessons to be learned, like the unconditional love, non-judgment. But I think one of the other main themes and curriculums of this Earth school is letting go and realizing that it's not about gaining. It's not about trying to hold on to it and do it yourself from this egoic standpoint. Because what this Earth school is ultimately all about is remembering who you really are. And I keep going back to that quote from Rumi, but it's working really well with what I'm trying to say here. So, we come into this world, and the ego is not something that we're born with. It's something that's developed over time. But the ego is this sense of who we think we are. It's a false sense of self, and it's always needing to create more and more of this sense of who we think we are, because that's how the ego works. It's all about gaining and superiority and being special and all of this kind of stuff, being somebody. And that's how when you're growing up, everyone's asking you who do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? Because somehow who you are and what you do is connected, and that gets programmed into your subconscious mind at a very young age. And you're believing that I have to do something really big time and significant in order to be somebody, in order to be appreciated, in order to be respected and honored. So it's this need and this pursuit of external validation, and thinking that the external validation will give you this sense of, this sense of self, this sense of contentment, this sense of, oh, I'm a somebody, I must be special. And then it's all part of this deep egoic programming, but it doesn't give you ultimately what you are searching for, because the you that thinks that I need to search for something in order to be a somebody, to be complete, to be whole, to be enough, that you is actually an illusion. The ego is an illusion, because the real you, the true self, capital T, capital S, is already whole. It's already complete. It's already enough. And there's nothing that you need to do or get or whatever to achieve that, to get this status of, to have the status of, okay, I'm finally there, I'm enlightened, I'm whole, I'm saved, I'm worthy, I'm enough. No, it doesn't work that way. So the lesson to be learned in detachment and letting go and just not holding on to things so tightly and seriously is it's the opposite. Like that's how you learn, is by learning the opposite. So in going through this life and practicing the art of letting go, what you're being taught is you're already enough. And the more you let go of all these things that you're holding on to and like trying to keep in this tight grip, the more you'll realize this, the more this innate peace will start to arise, the more you'll experience your inherent freedom and wholeness. And this is where bliss starts to arise. And this is something that you can experience in meditation. And I've made videos where I talk about this, where you start meditating. And, meditation really is a microcosm of the journey of life, because you can meditate for 30 minutes and go from being in this like waking beta brainwave state where you're operating from all these different egoic, dualistic thoughts and feelings, and you start to transcend that and you get into these deeper states of meditation, and the sense of self starts to dissipate and you actually experience the true self. You experience unity consciousness at this deep, profound level, which is truth, that you're one with everything. Separation is an illusion. And when you experience the true self in the form of meditation, or through meditation, I'll say, it's bliss beyond imaginable. It's just, it's at that point, what you're experiencing as the self, the true self experiencing itself at that level, is ineffable. There are no words that this little finite mind can come up with to even begin to describe what that experience is like. It's impossible, because that experience is the experience of the divine, of the infinite. And so the mind, even after you have some kind of samadhi or a satori experience like that in deep meditation, like even after, the mind will try to interpret what's really going on and what actually happened and what you were going through and what this was and what that was. But that's not like getting it or encompassing it at all. That's just the mind's interpretation, full of its own like biases and programming and conditions, and it's just like it doesn't work that way. So just know that, like if you meditate and you get into something like this and you start to experience the true self at that level of super consciousness, the best thing to do is to just kind of have this like reverence for the experience and to appreciate it, but don't think so much about it, because the mind's going to keep trying to reinterpret it through its own lens, and it's just it's gonna distort what actually happened. But what meditation essentially is, a lot of people think, oh, like you want to experience something profound like that, some kind of mystical experience, you really got to get into that state of awareness and you've got to do this and that and you've got to whatever. But you see, the whole thing about meditation is simply a modality to let go of all these things in the mind, these different thoughts and beliefs and feelings temporarily, to experience what always is. So this is an analogy I'll use. When we're living in our headspaces, when we're living in the thinking mind, we're in the clouds. So we can't actually see what is. It's foggy. We're egocentric in our awareness, and we're living from that state. However, what meditation does is meditation just removes the clouds. It dissipates the clouds, so there's that direct experience of the infinite, eternal sky of your being. So you're not going anywhere. You're not getting anything. You're not attaining something. You're simply letting go of the clouds. You're allowing the clouds to pass. You're not holding on to the clouds. You're not identifying as a cloud. You're not clinging to these thoughts and feelings and emotions and patterns that keep coming up in your life. You're just letting it go, letting it go, letting it go. That's what meditation really is. It's the practice of letting go in this time period, in this short time period, to where it's just pure isness. So meditation is actually training on how you can live in a way from this place of letting go, from this place of liberation, where you're not clinging to anything. You're allowing things to come and you're allowing them to go very naturally and effortlessly. And you're noticing that there is this Tao, there is this grace, there is this rhythm that's carrying each and every one of us through these different human experiences. And part of the human experience is the recognition of everything being in rhythm, in harmony, in flow, and everything at the deepest fundamental level is energy, pure energy. And energy is not stagnant, it's moving. That's the nature of existence, of reality. So again, the message is you're going through a curriculum in this earth school, and the curriculum is to stop clinging. And, with this, a lot of people will hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying you can't have things. I'm not saying you shouldn't have your own opinions and your beliefs and all these things. No, you absolutely should. You should have whatever you want and live in a way that is very much in alignment with your authentic self. And you should be able to think independently and form your own beliefs and all of that. But the difference is you're not attached to your beliefs. You have beliefs, but you're not attached to them. You have opinions, but you're not attached to them. You have things, materialistic things, and nice things, and fancy things. That's fine if you want to have that. But you're not attached to them. You have relationships, but you're not attached to them. And someone would say, well, how can you be in a relationship, especially a romantic relationship, if you're not attached? Because isn't that what true love is? And my answer is no. True love is the opposite. True love has nothing to do with attachment. True love is unconditional. So it says, I love you. And I don't need anything in return to give you that love. It's just this unconditional outpouring of love. And a relationship should be two people that come together, that are committed to one another, with that level of unconditional love awareness, where it's not about, what's in it for me and, all these no, it's not that. It's this very divine dance of unconditional love. And you can love someone and not be attached to them. I promise you it's possible. And again, that's just the approach. That's the wisdom approach of navigating this human experience here on earth. Because if not, you'll experience a lot of suffering. But even in the suffering is there to teach you. It's there to show you where you're attached and what the root of your pain is. And so even with the suffering, it's all grist for the mill. You see that, okay, if I've been suffering because of this or that, and there's an attachment here, and there's some kind of belief structure that I've been holding on to because of this and because of what they said, if I'm suffering because of all of this, and the suffering is showing me where I'm still holding on too tightly. And maybe the answer to me transcending the suffering is not in someone or something outside of me. Maybe it's within me. Maybe it's within my own choice. It's within my own ability to let go of this thing, to let it pass, to let it function and flow with the natural rhythms of nature's laws. And maybe if I do this, I'll start to experience less suffering. Maybe it's all connected to my attachment. That's just some things to think about, because, like I said, the majority of the suffering that we experience in our lives always goes back to what we're holding on to too tightly. And again, this too shall pass. That's true for anything that we can experience in this matrix, in this earth school, and it's supposed to be like that. That's the way this matrix, this curriculum was designed. But you are the witness, you are the awareness that's sitting back, that's observing, that's witnessing. And this whole thing about impermanence or this too shall pass does not apply to you because you are beyond time and space. So this matrix of earth, this earth school, is within the confines of time and space. So those rules apply to anything that is material or anything that can be experienced in this human experience through a VR headset of the five senses. However, you as the witness, as the awareness, are eternal. And when I say eternal, I mean beyond a beginning and beyond an ending. It's synonymous with the now, with the ever-present eternal now. You are the sky, you are not the clouds. The more you realize this, the more you remember this, the more you'll experience your inherent freedom. The more you'll experience the truth of your being, infinite love, infinite bliss, infinite consciousness. So, I think that's it for today. If you found this video helpful, informative, or insightful, please leave a thumbs up at the bottom of the screen and be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.